Okay, so you're probably going, is this like a Noxzema commercial or what? No, it's way more existential than that. Today, dear listeners, we're totally bugging in the best way possible. Don't be tardy, because today I want to welcome you to a very special episode of the Reaction Shot Podcast. We're rolling the time machines all the way back to 1995 to celebrate the 30th anniversary of a film that didn't just define a generation, it rewrote teen comedies, it smashed the fashion book rulebook, and dropped a new world of vocabulary so iconic that, as if, still slaps harder than a flip phone snapping shut. But first, I wanted to remind you that I'm so happy to be here in this new season with you, the listeners. So much has happened since season 1, and I couldn't be happier. One of the biggest things to make note of is that I am now officially a part of the You Run Podcast Network. A network jam-packed with some amazing creators with a wide range of podcast topics. So hop on over to the You Run Podcast webpage and check out all of the other amazing podcasts that are part of this family. In fact, let me run you through the names of the shows that you need to be listening to. First up, there's the You Run Podcast. The You Run Podcast Horror Movie Reviews. The You Run Podcast True Crime. The Ghoulish Gallery. Movies for Days. Dewey Pod Monster. You gonna eat that crust? Pop Culture Reflections. Video Tasties. The Paranormal Misfits. The Aardvark and Friends Do Red Dwarf. The Horror Friendly Podcast. The Girl and the Gay. Podcast in the Woods. Fans of the Dead. Between the Facts. The Horror Nerd Experience. Under the Floorboards. LK, the Horror Nerd. Release Date Rewind. And It's With You Now. A ton of great shows all in one place at yourunpodcast.com. That's yourunpodcast.com. Now, let's get into Season 2, Episode 14 of the Reaction Shot Podcast with a POV on 1995's Clueless. Clueless is a cultural reset. It's the reason we create a W with our hands and shriek, "Whatever." It's why plaid miniskirts are forever cool, and why matchmaking your teachers suddenly feels like a valid extracurricular. Full disclosure, I am head over heels in love with this movie. In this episode, I'm introducing my best friend, Jason Clark, who has never seen this movie before. Yes, a total virgin to the world of Cher Horowitz. Through the classy halls of Bronson Alcott High, my mission, a total project. To make sure that he doesn't end up a full-on Monet. You know, cute from afar, but a hot mess up close. We'll be diving deep into epic one-liners, behind-the-scenes tea, fashion, juicy trivia, and the legacy that makes Clueless so much more than teen fluff. So whether you're a total Betty, a Baldwin, or just way harsh Ty, buckle up, grab your fluffy pens, crack open a Diet Coke, and prepare to fall in love with Clueless all over again. Because this is our love letter to a film that taught us sporadically is SAT approved. That an Elia is practically royalty, and that sometimes your soulmate might be your ex-brother. Ew. No, wait. Yay. For all of you Barneys out there who aren't familiar with the film, or if you just need a quick refresh, Wikipedia has provided an all-out synopsis of the film. Cher Horowitz, a stylish, popular, and good-natured teenager, lives in a Beverly Hills mansion with her wealthy father Mel, a gruff litigator. Her mother died during a liposuction procedure when Cher was just a baby. She attends Bronson Alcott High School with her best friend Dion, also stylish and from a wealthy family. Dion has a long-term relationship with popular student Murray, though Cher believes Dion should be dating more mature men. Josh, the socially conscious son of Mel's ex-wife from a brief previous marriage, visits Cher and her father during a break from college. When Cher points out that they have not been linked by marriage for more than 5 years, Mel replies that he divorced his wife and not his stepson. Cher playfully mocks Josh's idealism when Josh teases Cher for her vanity, superficiality, and selfishness. Initially receiving poor grades on her report card, Cher renegotiates those with her more lenient teachers, but cannot budge the hard-grading Mr. Hall. To soften him up, Cher orchestrates a romance between Mr. Hall and the awkward Miss Geist. As a result, Hall relaxes his standards, allowing Cher to renegotiate the grade. After seeing the teacher's newfound happiness, Cher becomes enthusiastic about doing more good deeds. Cher's father professes that he is prouder of her negotiation skills than if she had actually earned the grades herself. When a clueless transfer student named Ty Frazier arrives at the school, Cher turns her into the next project. She and Dion make over Ty, giving her protege newfound confidence and style. When a clumsy skateboarding slacker, Travis, becomes smitten with Ty, the social status conscious Cher tries to extinguish the attraction between Ty and the unworthy Travis. Instead, she steers her towards handsome, popular student Elton. However, Elton has no interest in Ty and is instead interested in Cher, whom he tries to kiss in his car after a party in Sun Valley. When she rebuffs him, he leaves her in a parking lot out of spite, and she is mugged at gunpoint. With no money, Cher's only choice is to call Josh to pick her up. Seeing her attempts at mentoring Ty and volunteering for charities, Josh realizes that despite her superficiality, Cher is sincere. Christian, a handsome, seemingly metrosexual new student, immediately attracts Cher's attention, becoming her target for a boyfriend. When Cher goes to a party with him, Josh becomes protective, also attending the party in the process. There, he rescues Ty when no one asks her to dance. Later, inviting Christian to hang out while watching a film at her home, Cher tries to seduce him, but he deflects her advances and is distracted admiring the male actors in the film. Finally, thanks to Murray and Dion, Cher realizes that Christian is in fact gay, but decides to remain friends with him, approving his taste in art and fashion. Cher's privileged life takes a negative turn when Ty's newfound popularity strains their relationship. Additionally, when Cher fails her driving test for the first time, she cannot negotiate to change the result. Her mood worsens when Ty confesses her feelings for Josh to Cher, asking Cher's help in pursuing Josh. Jealous, though oblivious, Cher tells Ty that she is not right for Josh, and the two girls have a falling out, and Ty declares that Cher is simply just a virgin who can't drive. Now, feeling totally clueless herself, Cher reflects on her priorities and repeated failures to understand or appreciate the people in her life. She begins to help doing research on her father's legal case along with Josh, and they begin to bond. Pondering why she is bothered by Ty's romantic interest in him, Cher finally realizes that it's her, that she's in love with Josh. After her epiphany, Cher begins making awkward but sincere efforts to live a more purposeful life, including captaining the school's Pismo Beach disaster relief effort. She accepts an invitation from Travis to a skateboarding tournament in Long Beach, where she reconciles with Ty, who is now dating Travis. Cher and Josh eventually realize their feelings for one another, and the two share a kiss. Some time goes by and Cher attends the wedding of Mr. Hall and Miss Geist, which she and Josh attend as a couple, along with Dion, Murray, Ty, and Travis. Cher eventually catches the wedding bouquet and kisses Josh, thus concluding the film. Pretty groovy, huh? So, in the immortal words of Cher Horowitz herself, I totally paused. Now, let's roll with it, homies. This episode was brought to you by Mentos, the Fresh Maker. Hi everyone, I'm Dave and I love movies. So, welcome to my podcast, The Reaction Shot. In each episode, I'll dive deep into a movie of any genre that holds a special place in my heart. But here's the twist. I bring on a guest who has never seen that movie before, until now. We discuss, dissect, and review from pre to post-production to behind-the-scenes stories and well into its impact on pop culture. Will we agree on everything, or will we have wildly different views? Thanks for hitting play. Let's roll tape and find out. Fade in. Hi everyone, welcome back to the Reaction Shot podcast. It's me, your host, Dave, and I'm back again for a pretty exciting episode. Joining me today is one of my very best friends, a fellow cake boy, much like myself. Cake boy meaning he's a disco dancing, Oscar Wilde reading, Streisand ticket holding, friend of Dorothy, if you know what I'm saying. That's right, my best friend Jason Clark is here to talk with me about 1995's Clueless. Jason, how are you today?
I'm doing well. It's been a good day. I'm excited to be here. So thanks for the invite.
Absolutely. Well, I'm really excited to have you here for many reasons. One of them being you've never seen Clueless before. Jason, what the hell, man?
I was 9 years old when this movie came out, so I was like in 4th or 5th grade, and I don't know. It was PG-13. My parents were strict. I don't know. Maybe that was the thing.
You're missing out. I mean, I'm sure everyone listening to this podcast knows that I see movies maybe way too young, but I was a mature kid. You know, I didn't do anything I shouldn't be doing once I watched these movies. And to be honest, a lot of these movies I've watched when I was younger, I didn't really understand fully. I think it was just the idea of getting lost in the world, and Clueless has a lot of bright colors and silly things happening. So that's your history with Clueless, Jason. What did you know about Clueless before watching this for the first time?
I just knew that it's like an iconic movie. Honestly, I didn't know that it was from 1995 until you asked me and you said that it was the anniversary thereof, and I was like, okay, like where was I when this came out? And then I just kind of it's funny because the first time that I watched it a few days ago, I heard the different iconic sayings and stuff, and I was like, oh, like one of them, it made me laugh because Amber gets called Ambular, and my sister's name is Amber, and I remember that people would like joke with her and call her Ambular, and so now I know that's where that's from.
Hell yeah, there you go, making connections. I actually say Ambular a lot. Even to people whose names aren't Amber, I always say, "Hey yo, Ambular." I don't know why, but I do. So I get that, and the fact that your sister's name is Amber makes it even better. And now you know where it came from. You know the origin of it all.
This is true. It was a light bulb moment.
Yeah, hell yeah. And that's the great thing too. This movie, which we'll definitely get into, is absolutely a cultural phenomenon. We are 30 years later. We are recording this on good old July 10th, and the anniversary, the actual release date, was July 19th, and it's amazing. So
perfect timing. That makes this even more exciting to do, and I'm happy to be doing it with you. And I think everyone in the audience is probably asking, after 30 years, we know why you didn't see it when you were younger based on the rating. After 30 years, why have you never ever watched it ever since? Your husband Emilio, another one of my obvious best friends, he's seen it. So why hasn't he forced you to watch this movie? Why haven't I forced you to watch this movie, or have I? You have not. Part of the reason being, we basically will talk about all the different iconic movies that I've not seen.
Oh boy. Yeah, guys.
Obviously there's a lot, but I don't know. Amelia and I, we haven't
We end up watching just different TV shows and stuff like that. Don't really, we don't watch a lot of movies. We're more so like TV people, I guess. So, I don't know. I've obviously, since it was his first time watching it, I haven't been with um, him when he's watched it before. So I didn't even ask him when the last time he watched it was. So, I don't know.
Well, hey, you're here now. You got to watch it. You've watched it twice, correct?
I did literally one time right before this, just so it's fresh.
Hell yeah. You're a Clueless pro, and you're no longer clueless. You're very intelligent when it comes to Clueless now. You're very educated, and you know a whole bunch of new slang, like calling us cake boys, for instance. That's fun. Maybe mildly offensive, but
Eh, it's I don't mind it. It's fine.
I don't mind it either. It's okay. All right, guys. So yes, that's Jason's background with Clueless. My background with Clueless is, surprise, surprise, I saw it when it came out to VHS. So the movie came out in July 1995 and hit the VHS tapes in December of 95. And I put it on my list for Santa to bring to me. And Santa was so kind and brought me the VHS. I vividly remember opening it up. It was Christmas Eve. We were at my grandparents' house, and I opened it up and I'm like, yeah, this movie. And, the front of it literally says the word sex. And then on the back, in some way, shape, or form, it mentions something about Cher being a virgin. I remember my grandma holding on to the tape and like looking at it. And she's like, do you feel like this movie is appropriate for you? And I was like, yeah, everything's appropriate for me, Graham. Come on. She then asked me the wonderful question, well, do you even know what a virgin is? And I was like, nope, no idea. So she was like, yeah, I don't know if this movie's for you. But they let me keep it, and I watched it, and it's been a movie that I've put into my rotation. I've probably watched this movie at least once a year. It's one of my favorites, so that's my history with it. And I knew I had to do something special once I started this podcast to do the 30th anniversary. I was 7 years old when I saw that, and yeah, probably didn't understand a damn thing, but I enjoyed the hell out of it, and that's where we're at now. So that's my history, guys. I know no one's shocked here, but I'm sure my parents are listening like, oh, I can't believe he's telling everyone that we gave him that VHS tape back in 1995. But that's okay. Here I am. I turned out okay, right? I think.
I think
Maybe.
so.
Okay, cool. Thanks, Jason. All right, guys. So a little bit about Clueless, just to run through some stats really fast. The movie came out in 1995, as I mentioned multiple times. It is a coming-of-age, satirical, teen comedy romance. The estimated budget for the film was $12 million. Its opening weekend, it earned $10.6 million. Almost made its full budget back just by opening weekend. And the worldwide gross, it ran its theatrical run, ended with $56.8 million worldwide. So yeah, it was pretty much a hit right out the gate. That's great to hear. And over time, I don't have the actual stats for it, but I know it was a huge hit on home video rentals and buying. So I'm sure the revenue that it got afterwards was absolutely insane. And again, here we are 30 years later, and we'll talk about all the stuff that's still happening with Clueless. It was a critical darling. Critics actually really enjoyed it for what it was. Everyone mentioned it surpassed being just your typical teen comedy romance, especially from the 90s. Rotten Tomatoes, right now, we're sitting at an 82% critically. Not too bad. Audience score, we're at a 76%. On Internet Movie Database, we're at a 6.9 out of 10. Letterboxd, we're at a 3.7 out of 5. And over at Metacritic, critically, we're at a 73 out of 100. And from user reviews, we're at a 7.5 out of 10. Obviously, this is an overall score from people who've watched these movies. Critically, we have Gen Z people jumping in now, rating this film. So we'll talk about how that stuff kind of drags it down a little bit. So these user reviews are getting a tad bit lower. However, critically, we're standing at, on average, about an 85%. So I feel like that's pretty fair for this type of film. It doesn't necessarily mean that I agree with that, but I think an 85% for this film is pretty good. I guess, Jason, yeah, with that being said, let's get into a little bit of what you think here. So with Clueless, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being absolutely phenomenal, and one being, where do you grade the writing of this film?
So I graded the writing at an 8 out of 10
Okay.
because I thought that it was very funny throughout. It has all these great one-liners, and then I also like as I was watching the movie, I would kind of like try to teleport myself back into the 90s like time frame or like at least the 2000s ish because I don't
Hmm.
remember so far back, but um, yeah, I I give it an 8 out of 10 for writing.
8 out of 10. That's perfect. I think that is very fair. I actually I'm gonna give it a 10 out of 10. The reason being is I don't think that anyone was writing scripts like this at that time, and the fact that Amy Heckerling, the writer and director of this film, went over and kind of created all these new slang terms, even the things that were already established. She put into scenes that make them so memorable that sometimes you forget that some of it came before this movie. So everyone associates these things with Clueless. I don't know if anyone else could have written the way that she did, and the fact that she came up with certain things is so creative. And I mentioned to you, before we started recording, that every time I watch this movie, I pick up on different little things, different one-liners, jokes, and I'm like, oh my god, I never caught that before, and oh, that's hilarious, that's so creative. And doing research to do this podcast, I really broke things down, really seeing like the actual writing of it all. I'm like, damn, this is so creative. Like I couldn't imagine being someone in Hollywood and getting the script and wanting to turn it down. Now, what do you think about the directing? Scale of 1 to 10.
So I gave directing a 9. There were no like boring spots throughout the movie. It was always something, whether it was humor or even like some little action pieces, um, like the chaotic driving scene and things like that. Like that, there was always good zingers and comedy moments throughout the entire movie.
Yeah, the fact that Amy Heckerling, since she wrote the script and got to direct it, I think that is such a great thing to do, especially like in Hollywood, to have a female, especially at that time, to have a female write a script, sell the script, and get the chance to create this film, to direct it from her lens, her point of view, to take her own blueprint and do that. I think is great, and I think that worked very well in the benefit of that because it is such a creative script, and I don't know if anyone else could have brought it to life the way that she did. It's a very fast-paced film. It's an hour and 35 minutes, I think, something like that. So it's pretty quick to get through. There's not really any fluff in there. Directing wise, I think she did a great job of keeping the pace alive. She has some great shots in there. She definitely really, with the help of everyone else on set, she really brought the 90s to life. And to, much like you said, to watch it now, you kind of get transported back to the 90s. Obviously, we weren't there in high school, but to see that and visualize, it makes me feel like I am there. And I think that's a great thing. And that's what makes this movie so timeless. So directing, I give it a 9 out of 10. Acting. How do you feel about the acting in the film? We have a lot of newbies in this film. A lot of these actors, this was their first big role or one of their first big roles. So where do you think the acting falls in your opinion?
I actually gave acting a 10 out of 10 because I think between like Alicia Silverstone, Paul Rudd, like they were just spot on, like really good with how they portrayed their characters. I thought that it was an enjoyable watch. Like a lot of it was because of the acting. Like they were just spot on with their their characters and everything. And I also didn't know that a lot of them are like this was their debut, as you said. So that's kind of impressive.
Yeah, it is pretty impressive, and they all do such a great job. This was Brittany Murphy's first film ever. Isn't that crazy?
That's cool. That's I yeah that I that was the well aside from one other category, that's the only 10 out of 10 I gave it.
That's okay. That's good. I give it a 10 out of 10 as well. When I originally talked to you about doing this episode, I wanted to do a lot of fun little games and things like that. And one of the things I've been doing lately is recasting characters if we were to remake this movie in 2025. And I immediately was like, no, you know what? Let's not do that, because I can't see anyone else portraying these characters. And I don't want a remake of this movie because it wouldn't work. It just would not work in 2025. It feels so timeless, and the actors that are portraying these characters, to even think that some other people might have played certain characters, to me blows my mind. Yes, acting 10 out of 10, everyone knocked out of the park. What do we rate the drama in the film?
I gave the drama, so I gave the drama a 7, because out of the dramatic pieces, so like some of the pieces that were dramatic to me were like the mugging piece, where Elton dumps Cher out of his car and all that, and there's a little bit of dramaticness when like Cher kind of does the little meltdown piece, finding out about Christian being a cake boy. Like that was that was pretty dramatic in my mind as well. So there were dramatic parts in the movie.
I agree with you. I give the drama a 5 out of 10. Basically, I think a lot of the drama, like the over dramatic things that happen, are obviously on purpose and satirical in a way. It's kind of making fun of, again, it's more like the over the top things. You mentioned the way she reacts to finding out that Christian is a cake boy. It's dramatic and it's ridiculous, and it obviously slides into the humor of it all, and it works so perfectly. So yes, it's not a dramatic movie, and I don't think anyone would categorize it as a dramatic movie by any means. So yeah, those little drama pieces that are in there, they definitely make it a little bit more fun and exciting. So completely agree with you there. What do we think about the suspense and the violence of the film?
So I kind of rated those separately.
Okay.
I gave, I mean, suspense, I gave a 5, because there's not a whole lot of suspense. Like some of the suspenseful pieces, for me at least, was like, was the freeway driving, like when they went out on the freeway by accident. Like that was slightly suspenseful, I
And
guess.
iconic.
It was just like completely over the top. Like I was actually gonna text you the other day when I was watching it, and I was like, this highway scene is just chaotic. Like, 'cause I'm like
It is.
listening
It
to it
really
with
is.
like my surround sound and like the semi truck and like just everything. It was just utter chaotic and over the top and funny. Um, and like one of the other suspenseful moments, I guess, would be like when Ty is at the mall and she gets like slung over the railing a little bit and like whatever. I mean, that's slightly suspenseful, even though that like nothing bad is going to happen, because that would just mess up the whole movie. But I don't know.
No, for sure. What about the violence?
Violence. I mean, the only violence that I really feel that was in there, I gave it a 3. It was just like the mugging scene, like at gunpoint and everything. I mean, that was it. I don't really feel that there's
Sure.
nothing else outside of that.
Yeah, guys, no one's getting in here watching Clueless for any type of violent acts. Like you mentioned, there is a scene where Cher gets held at gunpoint and is asked to hand over her purse and her cell phone. Trigger warning there. I mean, I would definitely rate the suspense and the violence as 2 out of 10. I mean, I would say a 10 out of 10 for suspense when it comes to Ty's near brush with death hanging over that railing. I mean, that poor girl, her whole life flashed before her eyes. No, I'm just kidding, guys. That again is part of the dramatics right there. The whole scene that plays after, and when everyone's like, "Oh, like did your whole life flash before your eyes?" And she was like, "It wasn't really a series of this and that." It was fantastic, hilarious writing, and I just love they went so over the top with it, and they kind of did like the telephone thing where the rumors kind of changed. Summer actually walks up to Cher, and she says something along the lines of, "Is it true that she was held at gunpoint by gang members in the middle of the mall?" Completely ridiculous. So suspense and violence, definitely nothing too crazy going on. You kind of brushed on everything there that would be considered those things. Again, we're not watching this movie for scary stuff. It's not Scream, that's for sure. Okay, cool. What about the comedy of the film? Where are we rating the comedy?
The comedy, I gave it a 9 out of 10. I mean, there were, I mean, it was just funny throughout the whole way through. I mean, there were like all the different funny one-liners that were in there, the clever little insults that got inserted throughout, um, between like Cher and Amber, just the whole friend group essentially.
Mm.
There was always something that was an easy laugh, even from like Dad, whenever he would say like just random thing about the drinking, when Christian comes in to get it, like to get her and everything, and he like makes his comment about like, I'm not getting you a drink, like I didn't ask if you wanted a drink or like whatever, just like even that stuff, it's just silly.
It's so good. No surprise here, guys. I'm giving comedy a 10 out of 10. I think every time I watch this movie, I laugh, even though I know all the jokes that are about to happen or silly puns. It's the way they're delivered. It's the writing. It's everything. I think it's comedy gold. There's a lot of movies that try to be as creative as Clueless was, and they miss the mark. And I feel like this is pretty consistent throughout. So 10 out of 10 for comedy. And then we have music. This includes the score and the soundtrack. What are we rating the music of Clueless?
I gave the music a 10 out of 10, because right from the start, whenever they started playing Kids in America, I was like, oh my
Mhm.
God, that was like part of the thing that just like transported me like back into like downloading songs over Napster and all of that craziness back during those times. I actually looked into one of the scenes because Mighty Mighty Boss Tones is on there, and I learned um, that Amy ended up changing and shifting their party scene. So like they didn't want to play like at the first party scene that was in there because that's not their like vibe or whatever. And so she kind of shifted it so that they're in the second scene where it's not like a um it's a more not like house party like type thing because the Mighty Mighty Boss Tones didn't want to be in that type of environment like a house party situation. And I was like, okay, like that was like their first like one of their first things that kind of like took them off after that. I was like, that's
Yeah,
pretty cool.
yeah. Look at you with your research. I love it. Nerding out over here. Yeah, Jason. Just like you mentioned, I give the music a 10 out of 10. I think the soundtrack, when you watch the film or if you listen to the soundtrack on compact disc or a cassette tape or maybe your vinyl or of course Spotify and Apple Music, it definitely, much like the look of the film and the setting, it transports you right back to the 90s. We know these songs. We grew up with these songs, and we have No Doubts, Just a Girl. We have Kids in America from the Muffs. We have Fake Plastic Trees from Radiohead. We have songs from Beastie Boys, the Mighty Mighty Boss Tones, and we also have a song that is kind of associated with this movie, hardcore, and it's "Rollin' with My Homies" by Coolio. And you can never hear this song and not think of Clueless. Even if you haven't seen Clueless, I'm sure you have seen some type of meme or clip or something, or someone references Rolling with My Homies for sure. Music in this film is top tier, 10 out of 10. The person who created the soundtrack was told by Amy Heckerling, the writer and director of the film, that they didn't want a soundtrack that was cohesive in terms of music style. We're not getting all rock music here. We're not getting all hip hop and R&B. We're not getting all acoustic coffee shop music. We're getting a whole collection of different types of sounds and bands and themes. And the reason for this is because Amy Heckerling wanted these songs to associate with the types of characters that were in the scenes or major things that were happening. So I think that's pretty cool. I think that makes it stand out. It's definitely a classic soundtrack from the 90s. All right. If I had a drum roll sound, I would do it, but I don't. So, Jason, what do we rate Clueless, the film from 1995? 30 years later, what do you rate it on a scale of 1 to 10? 10 being an absolute classic, or 1 being a complete piece of shit?
Well, it's not a complete piece of shit. I give it a 7.5 out of 10 overall. I mean, like some of the pieces, like violence and stuff like that, just isn't there. But like overall, if you kind of remove some of those, I still think 7.5 is good.
All right, 7.5. That's very fair, and that's actually pretty on point with what the internet says when it comes to critics and user reviews. So you're definitely among the masses here, and that's a great score. I'm happy to hear that. Sometimes I introduce movies to people, and they're like, Dave, I don't know what the hell that was. I don't know why you made me watch it. So I'm definitely glad that you didn't fall in that category, because I'd be super sad, and this episode would have a dark cloud hanging over it. I give it a 9.5 out of 10. I think it is a fantastic comedy film. The acting is top tier. The fashion's incredible. The music is awesome. Like I said, I always go back to this movie, and I think that says something. And 30 years later, this movie is still being talked about. People are still saying some of the catchphrases from the film. People are hiring them for commercials to, reprise their roles. There's comic books, video games. Like, this is a cultural phenomenon, and I think it deserves every piece that it gets. So I'm giving it a 9.5 out of 10. I can't say it's a 100% perfect film, but I definitely say it's a 9.5, maybe a 9.8. So hell yeah, that's what I give it.
I like it.
So let me talk about the cast really fast. We have an amazing cast here. We mentioned it several times. We've talked about a few of the people so far. So Cher Horowitz, we have Alicia Silverstone. We have Stacey Dash playing Dion, Brittany Murphy playing Ty, Paul Rudd playing Josh, Donald Faison playing Murray, Elisa Donovan as Amber, Breckin Meyer as Travis, Jeremy Sisto as Elton, Dan Hedaya as Mel Horowitz, Cher's father, Justin Walker as Christian, Nicole Bilderback as Summer, Wallace Shawn as Mr. Hall, Twink Kaplan as Miss Geist, and Julie Brown as Ms. Stoger. What a cast, right, Jason?
It was an excellent casting, that's for sure.
Outside of Cher, because we can't pick Cher, it's too cliched, who is your favorite character? Who did you enjoy seeing on screen at all times? Who made you laugh the most? Who were you rooting for? Who was your favorite character? And you can only pick one, not Cher.
Not Cher, favorite character. Honestly, I'd probably pick Travis, because he was just a silly, like, stoner character that always had, like, just stupid shit to say, and it was also funny throughout the movie.
Yeah, Travis is great. I think Breckin Meyer really brought so much character and heart to Travis. I totally get why you like him a lot. He's definitely a very well-written character, and Breckin Meyer did phenomenal portraying him. I think if I were to say, right now who my favorite character would be, changes over time. Much like I said before, I've watched this movie 9 million times. I'm kind of feeling Amber right now. I feel like she's the frenemy. She's part of this friend group, but she's also kind of the outcast. She's a little bitchy. She's kind of living in Cher's shadow, but at the same exact time trying to weasel her way to be on top. And I kind of like it. I think Elisa Donovan does a fantastic job of portraying Amber. And I don't know if you know this, Jason, but it actually was turned into a TV show a couple years later, and she actually reprised her role. She came back to be a part of this world, and there's so much more to be seen of her character. I think that's pretty cool. I remember watching the Clueless TV show when it came out, but I've never revisited it, and I don't really remember much about it, but it's there. It's there.
I did
Yeah,
actually see that when I was like reading the reviews and stuff. Somebody mentioned the TV show, but they didn't care for it, and so obviously they wouldn't rewatch it either.
yeah. Alicia Silverstone did not reprise her role as Cher, of course. I mean, she immediately blew up after this and was getting role after role after role, so she didn't want to devote her time to a television series. It still had its place in the world, so whatever. Talking about this great cast, let's talk a little bit about who could have been in this cast. So I do tons of research online. I get things from multiple different sources. A lot of these things I try to get from actual like interviews where it's mentioned that these people did do that, as opposed to just some random person writing about it. But Angelina Jolie auditioned, but was deemed too mature for a story about fun-loving kids. Jeremy Renner was the second place choice for Travis behind Breckin Meyer. So if Breckin Meyer didn't sign on, Jeremy Renner would have been the one to take over that role. Ben Affleck auditioned for Josh. Reese Witherspoon was up for Cher. And Dave Chappelle met with the casting director to portray Murray. One crazy other casting was the possibility that Sarah Michelle Gellar actually came extremely close to playing Amber. She was a cast member at the time on a soap opera, which was All My Children. The producers refused to alter any type of shooting schedules so that she could take the role. So that role eventually went to Elisa Donovan. What do you think about that casting? Could you see these people playing these parts, or do you think they would play them better?
I could definitely see some of them swapping out and still being like heavy hitting characters. Yeah, I could agree with, especially like Jeremy Renner. Like I could see that. Like that would be a pretty much perfect match, I feel.
Yeah, I think a lot of these would make sense. Again, I don't know if I'd want to see these roles being portrayed by anybody else because, of course, we've witnessed these characters being portrayed by these people for so long now. But I love who we got. But it's always fun to hear the people that could have possibly been. It makes it kind of exciting. So Stacey Dash, who plays Dion, was the oldest cast member among all the students. So there's some reports that say she was 27 and some reports that say she was 29. I don't know why there's conflicting things. Maybe she was 27 when she started filming. Once the film came out, she had just turned 29 or was about to turn 29. But yeah, she was in her very late 20s portraying 15, 16-year-olds. Dan Hedaya considered this movie and his role in the film as one of his favorite filmmaking experiences. Now, that's Cher's dad. Dan has been in tons of films. He's one of those actors that you see in like everything, and you might not even know what his name is, but you're like, ah. And with Clueless being as popular as it was back in 1995 and still being popular today, a lot of people associate with him as Cher's dad. So they're like, oh, there's Mr. Horowitz running around and doing whatever he's doing in all these other crazy movies. So I think it's kind of cool that he mentions that Clueless was one of his favorite roles he's ever played. Often referred to as the film debut of Paul Rudd, his first film he actually did was Halloween. He was in a Michael Myers movie. He was in Halloween 6, The Curse of Michael Myers, and that was the first film he ever starred in. Clueless was his second movie, but Clueless was released before Halloween 6. Therefore, he is credited as Clueless being his first film. So that's a fun little fact for you. Did you know that? Did you know that this was basically like his first film?
I did not know. I didn't dive in that far.
Gotcha.
But I like the info.
Yeah, hey, listen, guys, I'm full of so much information about things that never matters ever. So if you ever need phone a friend for any type of trivia question.
Trivia stuff, exactly. That's what I was thinking of.
I got you, guys. Terrence Howard actually auditioned for Murray, while Dave Chappelle, as I mentioned earlier, was also meeting with Amy Heckerling at the time, but Donald Faison came in and won the hearts of everyone, and I think his portrayal of Murray is perfect. And I think Terrence Howard would have brought a little bit too much dramatic edge to it. I haven't really seen too much comedy from Terrence Howard that I can remember. I'm not saying it's there, but when I think of Terrence Howard, I think of a more dramatic actor. And Dave Chappelle obviously is a comedian, but I think he might have been a little bit too over the top if he had gotten this role. So I think Donald Faison was the guy to go with here. Another fun thing was Seth Green and Jamie Kennedy auditioned for the role of Travis Birkenstock as well. I could see both of them playing this character because they're kind of similar in terms of the types of roles they all play. I could see the three of them actually being friends. Seth Green was actually in Can't Hardly Wait, fantastic film, also from the 90s, came out in 98, I believe. Seth Green was in that movie with Breckin Meyer. They ended up doing a movie together, and they're known together for those roles in Can't Hardly Wait. So it's funny that they were kind of up for that same part. And this was also the debut film for Elisa Donovan, who plays Amber. Nicole Bilderback ended up doing a whole bunch of teen films. She's most known for Clueless, Can't Hardly Wait, and Bring It On. So she's definitely a face that you see in a lot of these teen films, but this was her first one, so that's pretty cool as well. Again, I think the casting of this film is iconic. It's memorable. You see these people, you see Alicia Silverstone. Most likely you're going to be like, oh yeah, she was Cher from Clueless. And now that you've seen the film, Jason, you're going to be saying the same thing. Congratulations, welcome to the, yeah, that's Cher. That's Cher. We know her. We know her.
It's so funny because I've seen, obviously, seeing this, seeing it for the first time, I was like, oh my god, there's all these heavy hitters and whatever, and I've seen them in many other movies and TV shows and everything, since that, even Mr. Hall, I was like, oh my gosh, he's been in so much other stuff. I can't think, but I just recognize his face and that he's been in so many things, and I was like, he's in Clueless too. Okay.
Yeah. Wallace Shawn, who plays Mr. Hall, he's definitely known for his voice. He does a lot of voice acting. He is in a lot of films too. Much like you mentioned, he's one of those guys you see in tons of movies. You definitely recognize him. But his voice is very well known for Rex in Toy Story. So,
yep, that is true.
Yeah, so whenever you hear his voice, sometimes I do feel like, oh, well, I guess their teacher is Rex from Toy Story. Perfect. He's kind of in everything too, and he often talks about this film as well and how much fun he had on set. And Zach and I went to a Comic-Con one time to go meet Alicia Silverstone, actually, and good old Wallace Shawn, who plays Mr. Hall, was there as well. And Zach and I were standing off to the side in a hallway next to the restroom, and while we were standing there waiting, he came out of the bathroom and just walked right by us, and I want to be like, Mr. Hall, Mr. Hall, but I thought that'd be kind of weird, so I just let him continue on with his life. But we're basically best friends now at this point. I'm just kidding.
I feel like when you're in an environment like that, they expect people to just kind of come up to you and whatever. And
I didn't want to be that guy, though. I just felt awkward. I think it was because he just came out of the bathroom. It wasn't like he was standing near a place where he's getting autographs and stuff, Be like, hey, shake your hand. It's all wet from washing your hand or maybe not washing your hand. Either way.
Well, it could be a way to have him remember you or something, but not in a good way, probably. No.
Yeah, probably not. It'd be like, yo, this psychopath, this cake boy came chasing after me after I came out of the bathroom. Just kidding. So the casting directors, while they were doing all this fun stuff and figuring everybody out and finally figuring out who works best for these roles, the casting director mentioned that the hardest character to find someone to play a part was Christian. And the reason being is because it's mid-90s. A lot of actors at the time, were getting a little nervous about playing gay characters. So they did have a rough time trying to find the right type of person. So the people who were auditioning didn't necessarily fit what was on the page of who Christian was or how he acted. A total, basically he's a total Baldwin as well. We all know that Cher definitely goes crazy over Christian when he walks into that classroom. So they needed someone who was going to, step onto the screen and just demand attention and, be attractive and be funny. So they finally found it in Justin Walker. Justin Walker has not done many things afterwards. I don't really know what he does nowadays, but he doesn't have a lot of credits to his name. He'll forever be remembered as Christian in Clueless, that's for sure.
What's interesting is when I was watching the movie and I saw as the story was progressing and everything, and he ended up like they ended up mentioning he was gay, I was like, I just did like a little 360. I was like, okay, 1995, like whatever, like just going through my head about, because there wasn't that many people that would like play a role like that, and I was like, okay, well, like props to him for going through with it.
Yeah, props to him for sure. Like I said, they were having such a hard time trying to find someone, and the fact that they found someone like him to do it, I think he knocked it out of the park. I think he's hilarious. When Zach and I watched this a couple weeks ago together, we were cracking up. Some of the lines he says in this film is so ridiculous. I love when Cher's looking for his attention and she drops the fluffy pink pen on the floor and he leans over and grabs it and reaches up and hands it to her, and the camera angle kind of goes up her leg, and he looks at her and says, "Nice stems." Like, who writes that? Who says that? But it works. It's so funny. I just remember Zach and I cracking up at that line, and I've heard it a million times. But when you just really think about it, kind of get into the head of Amy Heckerling while she was writing that, and Justin Walker, saying it out loud, I would have died on set in this film. I would have cracked up. I want to see bloopers. That's my thing. I want to see all the bloopers. But yeah, next time you see someone, showing their legs off, you should be like, "Nice stems." Next time Emilio's in shorts, you should be like, "Hey, nice stems." See what he says.
Yeah, the reason why the rating for writing was up there for me. So
yeah, it's hilarious. I actually would have loved to watch this movie with you, to be honest. I would have loved to see your reaction to some of the lines and the humor and some of the things that happen on the screen, but it's fine. We'll just talk about it. It's cool.
It'll be good. For the next one, maybe we can do live in person.
Hey, let's do it. I'm down to switch things up for sure. We'll do it. Yeah, guys, we'll hold Jason to that. Okay, we're gonna do that soon.
Do it.
Another little fun fact about casting, and then I will move on, I promise. But I didn't know about this until Brittany Cunningham texted me with a fun fact. Kind of blew my mind. She texted me and she said, "Do you know Twink Kaplan, who plays Miss Geist? She grew up and graduated from Mount Lebanon High School," which
Small
that's
world.
crazy. And for those of you who don't know me that well, I actually lived in Mount Lebanon. I worked in the area. That to me is crazy. I think it's awesome. So she's a Pittsburgh girl, and it makes me love her just a little bit more. And she is best friends with Amy Heckerling, and she is an executive producer of this movie. And she usually stars in some capacity in Amy Heckerling movies, and she's usually a producer on set. So that's pretty cool. Basically, we grew up with Twin Kaplan living down the road from us.
This is the second time that Mount Lebanon High School has popped up this week, because I was flying back from Dallas earlier this week, and we flew over a football field, and I looked out the window, and it was Mount Lebanon football field, like from the high school, and I was like, "Oh, look at that."
Like, well. I love it. Some stuff about the pre-production of the film. When this film was coming about, Amy Heckerling was approached by 20th Century Fox back in 1993. They wanted her to write and direct a TV show. She came up with this idea that we would eventually know as Clueless, but 20th Century Fox was like, "No, we don't want anything that's like female focused. We want smart people, we want guys, we don't want these ditzy girls running around. Like, that's not the focus." She was a little sad to hear things like that, and she decided to hold on to that story, and she fleshed it out a little bit more, kind of turned it into a movie, and shopped it around. It eventually fell into Paramount Studios' lap. She got together with one of the producers working at Paramount who was like, "This script is genius." And, she made a couple little changes to make it a little bit more theatrical, to pull it away from the television land. And she was like, "This is perfect." She ended up going to Beverly Hills High School to observe the students to add authenticity to her script. So she went back to high school to watch students and listen to how they talk to each other, listen to what they care about or what they don't care about, and the different things that they're saying. And she ran with that, and she brought all those ideas and she reworked the script, and that's how we ended up getting what we got today. So I think that's pretty awesome. I think it's an awesome beginning. And she also credits the 1815 British novel by Jane Austen called Emma as being kind of a blueprint to the story. So there's a lot of comparisons to the things that happen in Emma, that also happened in Clueless. Obviously, it's more modernized. Some things are switched around a little bit, but she kind of used that as the blueprint, went to high school, learned new slang, reworked a few things, and now we have Clueless. What a great origin story.
Like, that's impressive.
Yeah. Yeah, I like to see when, I think it's funny that the studio approached her to do a TV show. She brought it to them, and they're like, nah, we don't like this. We don't want girls. No one's going to watch girls leading this. And look at Clueless now. She did everything that 20th Century Fox did not want, and Paramount said, we like what you did, and we're going to make it work. And they did. Kudos to them for all that.
Now that makes me wonder if somebody that likes 20th Century Fox wrote one of these reviews that we'll talk about.
Yeah, well, actually, yeah, let's jump into that. So, we have this cast, we have, the pre-production, the films getting made, and now here we are 30 years later, and we have the internet. We didn't have thousands of reviews coming out. We had these film critics who would write for papers and magazines. Now, the world we live in, everyone's a critic, everyone has something to say. That's why I like to do these. I like to go online and see what people are saying. So, Jason, tell me about the reviews you found online. These absurd reviews that you found. Give them to me.
So the first one that I found, I wish I would have wrote down the years that they put these on, but the one that I was just talking about related to 20th Century Fox, I found there was one from J Banana Monkey on IMDb. They rated it a 4 out of 10, and they said, watch only if you like sexism. And they said, disappointed in this movie. The heroine was portrayed in a very sexist way. She was really ditzy and only spent money while men did real work. Well, I have big news. Women in the 20th century generally do not act like this. I know that the movie was supposed to be based on Emma by Jane Austen, but I was hard-pressed to find much resemblance. Why couldn't Cher have been a smart, sassy young lady? I think that that would have been a modern Emma. This is tidal evidence of modern suppression of women. Also, it was full of stereotypes and borderline racist insinuations. I would have liked to have heard a few of the girls' plans for the future. I enjoyed the novel Emma as a historical piece of literature, not as a representation of today's young women.
Oh my god, Jason, that just gave me a headache.
I know, but the thing about that is I feel that this movie was made to be over the top and to be ditzy, and that was the whole point of the movie, was to just be that way. And I think the point came across well. I don't know. I don't necessarily agree with J Banana Monkey.
Listen, J Banana Monkey, you don't get it. And that's the problem. And this, I'm not going to get into my soapbox about it because it's not that serious. But people don't get the satire of it all. And, there are some things that are said and or that happen in this movie that someone could take out of context and be like, well, it's definitely controversial. Shouldn't have said that. And, I'm not going to give a pass to the use of the R word, which is used, I believe, twice in this film. So I'm not talking about that. But some of the other things, they are very satirical. They're there not to make fun, but to kind of poke fun at why we make such a big deal about these things. No one gave a shit that Christian was gay. No one did. Even when Murray brought it to the girls' attention, of course, they were shocked. They didn't believe it. And then when they really put all the pieces together, they're like, oh, yeah. And of course, those are all stereotypes of, what people think of gay men, but they're not making fun of it. It's a satirical look at the idea that these are the stereotypes that people give to gay men. They're not making fun of them. As I said, no one gave a shit that Christian was gay. I think that's important. And I think maybe there should have been more diversity in the film, but I do also think that they did a good job of having people of color in the film, whereas, a lot of things from the 90s you watch and it is whitewashed to all hell. Again, I don't agree with J Banana Monkey, whatever the fuck his name was. I don't agree with him. I think everything he said, he didn't understand. And no one was trying to recreate Emma. They took a blueprint of something and made it modernized. I think he needs to watch it again, and I'll sit down next to him. Whatever.
Exactly.
What else you got, Jason? Did you find any other ones?
I did. I found there was another one that was rated 2 out of 10 by, I don't even, like, it's a username, so I don't even think it's a word. And they just said, rated 2 out of 10, and they said, just a no. And they were just like, total waste of time. Acting is terrible, and the movie is boring. There is almost no plot, and only the clothing is kinda iconic. Can find something more interesting to watch while you are not in depression.
Oh my god. Oh, I can't stand people, Jason. Where do these people come from? Who let them watch these movies?
I do have one other one, and this is one that I agree with. Well, I guess. I mean, it's a 5 out of 5 by Grace on Google, and Grace says, I really like this movie. Great soundtrack, costumes, and I honestly, truly love an iconic diva girl. While the movie is kind of predictable, I still think that it was done really well and definitely a 90s classic. And I think I agree with it. Like, I think that person gets the concept of the movie a lot better than Banana Monkey. So, yeah.
But also, I feel like she said a lot of good things. Why did she only give it a 5? See, like
well,
that's
it's 5 out of 5. Like, that was...
Oh, 5 out of 5. Oh, perfect.
Yeah, that was...
We love her.
So I guess I should have just said 10 out of 10 then, but to make it all consistent. But the first two were IMDb, and the third one was Google, so,
Gotcha. Okay, no, 5 out of 5. We love her. Spot on. I think she needs to get together with J Monkey Banana person thing, and she needs to teach him a lesson for sure. So, okay, I found a few myself. Okay, this one's from Internet Movie Database. It's from Mad Dog Macklin. Got a 1 out of 10, guys. A 1 out of 10. I already hate this guy. He says, you know what I hate? LA, stupid blonde bimbos, rich people, and humor that isn't funny, no matter how frickin' hard it tries. That and a criminal waste of half-decent actors in what is really an act of something that has no right to be recorded on celluloid. The film throws all of those truly awful ingredients together in a streaming cocktail of really, really bad stuff. All right, it expects us to give empathy and sympathy to a stupid blonde biatch who thinks she is like really smart and falls in love with the following order: a moron, a gay guy, and her stepbrother. But in all cases, this is outweighed by her love for herself. The film encourages blonde half-wits with walk-in wardrobes around the world to believe that they have the power and right to do what they want and that they are superior. To countermand this, I recommend a mass culling of all things blonde and teeny boppy right now.
That
like, what?
Something.
Yeah, I rate that drama a 10 out of 10. Like, that is the most dramatic and borderline misogynistic review of Clueless I've ever read in my life. I hate that I had to share it, but I just had to show that people are assholes and don't understand anything. And the fact that he got all of that from what we watched, a little cutesy teen comedy satire film, never mind. I don't like him.
This is why opinions are okay to have. But
yeah. All right. This one is a 2 out of 10. From Internet Movie Database, and this is from CC the Movie Man. CC the Movie Man named this Clueless is Correct. This was cute for a while, and then became too teeny bopper oriented for me. I guess if you are a 13 to 16-year-old female, you would relate to and like this film. Sad to say, it's another film which gives poor messages to teens. Hey kids, want to have casual sex? No problem. Go for it. Nice. Leave it in the ultra-liberal and moral bankrupt world of filmmaking. Clueless is a good title for people who make films like this, not just the lead character in the movie. According to Hollywood, being a teen, as shown in this movie, revolves around your social life, plastic surgery, cell phones, drugs, and sex. It's all made nice and sugary by having the pretty and sweet-looking Alicia Silverstone in the lead. She plays the not-so-sweet Cher, an apt name for a materialistic, spoiled brat. When the messages are, for example, virginity is bad, but drugs are okay. Even fun to experiment. The tale of teen matchmaking and other topics that will make an adult want to puke does have a decent cast with always interesting guys like Dan Hedaya and Wallace Shawn and another young hottie in Brittany Murphy. However, you wouldn't want your kids to watch this garbage. Believe me. Like what? Like what the hell?
That is quite the review. Like, I think it like kind of cued it in with about the like plastic surgery and the cell phones piece. Like,
Yeah. So like that's the thing too. Like that's people are obviously watching this on a surface level. You know, they're not. No one's saying that everyone wants all these kids want casual sex and drugs. It's not it at all. If anything, it's the complete opposite, and there's a lot of heart to it. And but whatever. Who am I? I have two more. They're good ones, I promise. This one is from Letterboxd. It is a half star, not even 1 star.
Cool.
It's just a half star, just a half. It's from Wardle Hardwell White. Great name. Just studied Shakespeare's "Shall I Compare Thee to a Summer Day" this week in school, and Clueless quotes it. I don't understand what's the point of a technically unremarkable movie with an insufferable story filled to the brim of moralism. It depicts the rich, popular as the punctual characters and crybabies, while the underdogs are good and lovely. It's not particularly well made. It makes you pissed and doesn't justify it with comedy or reflection. It's shallow, stupid film that tries to be light while painfully injecting fake depth. After 30 minutes, I was wondering how I could get to the end. Tiring garbage. What?
I mean, that was the purposeful point of the film, was it not? No.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, it's just to read. Like, as you can tell, all three of these negative reviews kind of follow the same thing in terms of just like not understanding the tone of the film, and again being very misogynistic, referring to them as, you know, rich and popular, and that's all they are. That's all these people are seeing on the screen. That's all they think that they are. So that's super obnoxious, and I hate that people do it that way.
To each their own.
To each their own. These reviews, again, super annoying. But I had to find one positive review, and I wanted to read it to you guys because this person gets it and is way smarter and more intelligent than all the others. They give it a 10 out of 10. I think on here it's 5 out of 5, but whatever. This also is on Letterboxd. This is from Ben Salisbury. You know it's going to be good when they have like a real name that like makes sense and it's not jumbled up garbage, as they like to say. Ben Salisbury says, witty, endlessly funny, and loaded with excellent performances. Clueless is now one of my favorite 90s films, and I can't believe it took me so long to watch it. Did you write this, Jason? That sounded like you.
I was just thinking.
He says, I know I only saw Clueless for the first time recently, but it was so amazing that I've had an urge to rewatch it ever since my 30th anniversary collector's edition arrived at the start of the week. Wow, this is like a really fresh review, guys. It really is such a great film, and it's so much fun to watch. Alicia Silverstone's performance is fantastic, and she is undoubtedly what makes this film so special. She steals every scene she's in, and I really love Cher as a character. I also loved Donald Faison's performance. He nails his character, and he's so funny. All of the other cast members are great too, but Silverstone and Faison are my favorites. The story is simple, but it carries the film along nicely, and it's not too difficult to follow. I will say that there are 2 unexpected plot twists throughout, one involving Christian, also a very funny scene, and the ending. It looks great as well. The cinematography is excellent, and I think it helps a lot to create the tone that the film has. The oversaturated colors, soft coating of film grain, and overall look of it gives it that awesome 90s feel, which I really love. It's also a brilliant 4K remaster, so it gets bonus points for that. God, I love this guy. Overall, Clueless is such a blast. It's a brilliant film and one of my favorites of the 90s. It's clever, funny, and so much fun to watch. Highly recommended. Man, Ben, we like you, buddy. What a great guy.
Yeah, that is a good review.
I feel like you started writing that review and then I wrote the rest. That's what it sounded like to me here.
Sometimes people get movies too late, so
Yeah, and that's okay. And guys, that's what this podcast is all about. Let me introduce these movies to you and hope that you like them as much as Jason and Ben Salisbury did. That's a pretty fresh review. The 30th anniversary collector's 4K transfer just came out on Tuesday, and today is Thursday. A very fresh review. Glad to see that random people are still watching this movie for the first time, much like yourself, Jason. And that's, again, a part of the legacy of Clueless. We love to see it. All right, let's do one thing I like to do every episode this season, and that is everyone's favorite 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon. Now, Jason, when I texted you, you told me that you started doing one with Alicia Silverstone. Is that correct?
I did.
Okay, did you finish it? Like, did you make the connection?
I did. And
okay,
there's a shocker. Well, I'll tell you what the shocker is if you want me to read.
All right, yeah, tell me.
It.
Yeah,
so
yeah, let's go ahead.
So for Cher, I did Alicia Silverstone, obviously in Clueless. She was also in Batman and Robin in 1997, which I saw at the drive-in movie theater in Moundsville, West Virginia. So I actually saw that movie. She was in
Good
there
job.
with George Clooney, and George Clooney was in Ocean's 11 with Brad Pitt, which I also have seen. Ocean's 11. Are you counting? That's 2 movies that I have seen so far.
Guys, this is big.
And then Brad Pitt from Ocean's 11 was in Sleepers with Kevin Bacon, but I have not seen Sleepers. So that's a 66%, which is failing, that I've seen. So that's
No, respect. I'm glad there's movies in there that you saw. I'm very happy. Look at that. You did good. That's a good one. Yeah. I'm so proud of you, Jason. To hear that you saw a couple of movies really makes me happy. I love that you did that. So what I usually do is I'll pick a person from the movie. I try to find someone that people know that does have a decent film career, but maybe isn't as high tier level as Alicia Silverstone is. So I did pick Donald Faison, who plays Murray. So my 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon was Donald Faison was, of course, in Clueless. Donald Faison was in Remember the Titans with Denzel Washington.
Hey, I've seen that too.
Did you? Oh man, Jason, I'm learning so much about you today. You know, we have a little over 10 years of friendship here, and I'm learning that you have seen more movies than like 5. So,
well, it was in high school chemistry class, because that's when you would watch Remember the Titans, when your chemistry teacher is a football coach. So that's when I saw that.
Okay. Well, shout out to your high school football coach. Love it. So Denzel Washington was in The Manchurian Candidate with Meryl Streep. Meryl Streep was in a film called The River Wild with Kevin Bacon. So we have Donald Faison with Denzel Washington in Remember the Titans, Denzel Washington in The Manchurian Candidate with Meryl Streep, and then Meryl Streep in The River Wild with Kevin Bacon. That's my 6 Degrees. Did you also do Donald Faison too?
I did.
Okay.
So I did Donald Faison was in Uptown Girls with Dakota Fanning, and then Dakota Fanning was also in Trapped with Kevin Bacon.
Jason, that's good. Look, you did it faster than I did. And all right, guys, so Jason and I are going to talk a little bit about some of the things we love about this movie outside of the bigger picture of the acting and the writing and the directing. Jason, what are some of your favorite scenes in this movie? What are scenes that really stick out to you, made you laugh a lot? Tell me, what did you love? What did you love about Clueless?
So, interestingly enough, one of the scenes that I enjoyed was the right off the bat, the little PC, like the computer that she had, like that was one of the things that like threw me back, like the pixelation of the monitor and her little like wardrobe. What is it? I made a note of the fall fashions wardrobe, like matching thing. I was like, that's amazing, because that's something that I would have had, but also wouldn't have been able to afford back in 1995 with that kind of thing. plus I'm a nerd,
What?
so I was like, that's perfect.
I love that you brought that up, because that is such a topic of conversation that, as far as I know, that doesn't exist at all. That no one has invented that. And people talk about that all the time. It's such an iconic moment in the movie, and how great would it be if we were able to do something like that, especially with today's technology, to find like the right outfits and whatever it might be. But like you said, it definitely takes you back to that time and looking at those pixelated computer screens and whatever. But yeah, that technology as a whole, creating the outfits and the rotating closet, as far as I know, that hasn't been invented yet. Maybe, Jason, you should get on that and work with someone to make it happen.
Oh, I don't do programming. I hung that hat up a while ago.
Well, find someone who does. What else do you love?
Um, I s- I enjoyed the whole tennis like piece when they're playing tennis, and Ty kind of gets introduced at that point. I really like the point where they made like the girls just want to have fun like in that moment. Like it's kind of perfect for that scene, I feel, and um that was a good scene.
The gym scene is iconic. That is when we first meet Ty, when she comes in. Brittany Murphy, she sticks out like she doesn't belong in Los Angeles. She definitely came from somewhere else. I think it's Amber who says she could be a farmer in those clothes. Like, okay, Amber, don't be such a bitch. When she walks into that tennis court there, she definitely doesn't look like she fits in by any means at all.
I enjoyed the chaotic driving scene just because it's kind of like off, it's just like so off the wall for that movie. I feel it's just over the top, silly, and just like ridiculous. And then I get multiple driving scenes, like when she's trying to take her permit test and she just like completely like hits the cyclist, and then even before that, like it's just a mess. And then that kind of just goes back to the piece of where there was a comment made about like from their dad about not having like two driving permits don't equal a license or something like that.
Yep.
And I'm
Yep.
just like, oh my gosh.
I think he says no cruising around with Dion. Two permits do not equal a license.
Yes,
So
that's
true.
it.
So true. To be a teenager again, to be learning how to drive and hanging out with our friends, and the ones who do have the license and the ones who don't.
And then just like like silly little pieces like where they're at the dinner table with their dad, and like dad's cell phone rings and they all pick up each of their cell phones thinking that they were the one that got the call. And then especially just seeing those old cell phones, I remember the first person that I knew to have a cell phone was like my 8th grade teacher, and it was a car phone, and it just like brought me back to that car phone in her car, and just the pull out like antennas that don't exist anymore, and just it just brought a whole bunch of memories back from that time period for
Yeah.
me. I'm just like, wow, we've really grown up, kind of, but not. I don't know.
I think the cool thing about the cell phone topic is that I believe back in 1995, if you were someone with a cell phone, especially a cell phone that wasn't in the car, you were definitely considered a rich person because you had one. So to see, now, if we're watching this in 2025, to see teenagers in high school having a cell phone, you wouldn't even bat an eye at it. You're kind of like, why is everyone not holding onto a cell phone right now? But yes, that cell phone is definitely associated with the rich and fabulous back in 1995, and the Starbucks cups back in
I
1995.
saw that
I
too.
didn't.
I ended up Googling. I was like, when was Starbucks like a thing? And there was something that was it some other brand. I was like, oh, this was around then, and I like Googled it, and I was like, ah, like all right, that's news to me. Like,
I noticed the Starbucks cup years ago watching it, and I was just kind of like, wait, Starbucks is around then? It kind of blew my mind. Granted, this was 30 years ago. You kind of feel like Starbucks was a newer phenomenon, but I guess it took some time to work its way over here. Yeah, that was pretty cool. But any other big standout scenes that you think about?
I just like the background piece um, of the Mighty Mighty Boss Tones and their kind of like kickoff to fame slash whatever. I mean, to me, whenever I saw them in the movie, I was like, oh my gosh, because their voice is just a memorable one, and that's when I started like kind of diving into that side of it, where we read about Amy and that piece that I mentioned. So I was like, that's kind of cool little fun trivia facts. No.
We love those around here. Um, what about the Valley Party? What did you think about Suck and Blow?
Oh my gosh, that was interesting. I I never played that game when I was no. I had like dances in church basements instead. Good
Oh,
old Catholic
oh,
Catholic school upbringing. Um, but yeah,
whole
I
different
mean,
world here.
e exactly. That was like that scene was somewhat. I mean, that would be kind of under dramatic, I guess, with that party.
Yeah, so guys, anyone who's not familiar with this movie, Suck and Blow is a game they play at a house party they go to, and Suck and Blow is sucking a credit card to your mouth and blowing it back to the person next to you. So essentially, you're kissing someone, but you have the credit card between both of your lips, and whoever doesn't suck or blow correctly, the credit card will fall, and you end up kissing that person. So your lips actually meet. In the scene, they're playing Suck and Blow, and this is when we find out that Elton might have some feelings for Cher, even though Cher is trying to hook Ty up with Elton. So I think Cher's response when the credit card drops and he kisses her, she kind of like pushes him away, and she's like, "God, Elton, can't you suck?" I had never heard of Suck and Blow before. Jason, did you ever go to house parties like this in high school when you were in high school?
No, I
No.
did not. I was a big nerd, but it wasn't like nobody ever like made fun of me or anything like that, so that was helpful. But I didn't really go to house parties. This is where I lived in Ohio. Like I didn't have a car. I didn't get my permit until I don't know, later than you're allowed to. Like everybody else in my class pretty much got their permit as early as was lawfully okay in the state of Ohio. Um,
Gotcha.
so I mean, I went to maybe like a couple house parties, but I don't really remember them that well.
No Suck and Blow?
No, no suck and blow.
The name of it just, I feel like if you're just like, hey, I went to a party and I played Suck and Blow, I feel like if someone told me that, I'd be like, if I didn't know what Clueless was, I'd be like, what the fuck is that? Some
I
creepy
ha
ass party you're at.
I think I've seen some stuff where they have like these Jello shot things nowadays that are called like suck and blow Jello shots, and so like it's just like a tube of Jello, and like the one person can't you have to have two people to do it because one person has to blow the Jello out, and it's like a thing. I've seen them but never used them.
Things that people come up with for parties is fun. I never used to go to like a lot of house parties per se in high school, but where I grew up at, this is gonna sound really weird, but parents would always rent out fire halls like Fridays and Saturdays for their kids. I don't know what the cost of that was. I don't know, but they would have a DJ, like not like ultra professional DJ, but like maybe someone's older brother or whatever, and they would bring like packs and packs of soda and chips and stuff like that, and we just have this fire hall and we would just dance. And it was like Fridays and Saturdays, and it felt like it was like every other week. And my parents would always just take me. They would drop me off. You would come back in like 2 or 3 hours, and you would go I was like our parties, but there was no suck and blow. I missed the memo for those at the parties. So we were just dancing around to whatever music was popular then, like maybe Usher. Good times.
I was gonna say.
So let's talk about the debate scenes in this film. The one standout debate scene. There's a really hilarious moment, a very famous scene, when Cher is giving an impassioned defense about refugees. She mispronounces the word.
I know.
But Alicia Silverstone didn't know how to say that word, but she didn't want to tell anyone that she didn't know what it was. So instead of saying Haitians, she said Haitians. And they left it in the film. So while they were filming it, when she says it, the script coordinator who's on set making sure that the actors are getting their lines, I guess started walking towards Alicia Silverstone, and Amy Heckerling was like, nope, 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 just let her go. And everyone just kept going with it. So I don't know if that's the only take that it was, like if that was the take that we have in the film, but when they were shooting the scene, she did that. She didn't do it on purpose. And they thought it was so perfect that they left it that way, and it's become an iconic thing. I think that's kind of a cool story there.
Yeah, I mean that worked out in their favor. See, Alicia was doing some writing and editing of her own. Good for her.
Yeah, good. She's great in her own comedy. We love to see it. There's tons of great scenes in this movie. We can sit here and talk for hours about them, and I feel like there is so much that happens in this movie that this episode, celebrating the film, could go on for a very long time, so I don't want to bore the hell out of people. Fashion in this film is absolutely insane. So many things to stand out. There's so much plaid in this movie. The yellow plaid outfit that Cher wears at the beginning of the film is often used in promotional pictures for the film, so people always talk about the fashion in this movie. Alicia Silverstone had 60 costume changes throughout the film. Isn't that insane?
That's impressive.
Dion had around 45 outfit changes in the film. Big shout out to Stacey Dash in this film. I think her portrayal of Dion is so great. I think she plays such a funny character, and I can kind of relate to Dion in ways that she reacts to certain things. The scene when she's in the car, they're getting ready to go to the Valley party, and they're looking at the map, and Murray's like, read the numbers on top of the map, and she's like, there are no numbers on top of the map, there's just letters, and he gets really frustrated. That would be me. I'm definitely a Dion in that situation, and in some of these scenes, I definitely feel like I can relate a lot to her reactions to certain things that are happening, and Stacey Dash just plays the character so well, and her chemistry with Murray is on point. So her and Donald Faison, perfect casting there together as a couple. She also plays off so well with Alicia Silverstone. And I do want to talk for a minute about Brittany Murphy as Ty. Absolutely incredible. The minute she walks on the screen, all the way until the last frame of the film that she's in, she is such, I'm going to sound corny for a minute, such a warm spirit. I feel, even though this is filmed, it's not happening live in front of me. I'm not talking to Brittany Murphy at that moment in time when I'm watching the film. She just has such a warm presence to her, and she embodies that innocent teenage girl. Granted, the character seems like she might have had a little rough past in life. She does talk about drugs and losing her virginity and things like that, which obviously is totally fine. But compared to the girls that she's talking to, she seems a little bit more ahead of their time. So they're kind of viewing her as, they're trying to figure her out, and they refer to her as being a project, something they can work on. And of course, they give her a makeover, and I think she's beautiful. I think she was perfectly cast for this part, and her chemistry with everyone on set, especially for being her first film, top tier shit right there. So rest in peace to Brittany Murphy. Very sad that we lost her. I can't believe that happened in 2009 when she passed away. The cast talks about her a lot when they do interviews. Ever since she has passed, they have talked about, how great she was on set. She was always there for people, and Alicia Silverstone even gives credit to her that she felt an instant connection with her and stayed in touch over the years up until her passing. So big shout out to Brittany Murphy. What did you think about Ty? Did you like her character a lot? Did you like Brittany Murphy's portrayal of her?
I did. Yeah, I thought it was great. Like you said, from that first part where she just kind of like came in to the court and just kind of like took it from there. It's silly with the whole like project piece. Like that's just so like Cher's character to just like always want to be doing something, and that kind of just like goes back to like when she's talking with her dad, and her dad mentions about like all the things that Cher does for the family and everything like that. It's like she's always wanting to be involved in a project, and Ty got to be that project.
What a project she was. And she's, she has some great lines in the film too, which kind of gets me into, let's talk about some of the big quotes in this movie, the memorable lines that we have. I'm going to read a couple to you, Jason, and I want to see if you can tell me who you think said this line, okay?
Okay.
Ugh, you are a snob and a half.
I'm gonna go with Amber.
Nope,
But not.
it is actually Cher.
Oh,
It is Cher. No, you're fine. She says that line to Elton when they're in the car when he's taking her back from the Valley party, and when she thinks that he has the hots for Ty, he's explaining to her that it's not Ty that he likes, it's actually her, it's Cher, and he was like, "Why do you think I'd be with Ty? Don't you know who my father is?" Because his dad is a famous music producer, and that's when she responds, "Ugh, you are a snob and a half." Okay, next line. Who said it? Do you prefer fashion victim or ensemble challenged?
I would go with Cher again.
Yeah, it is Cher, and you know who she said it to?
No, Stacy.
It's when they're at the Valley party, and Amber's wearing the same outfit that Cher wore at one point in time as well. And she asks her, she goes through.
Oh, that's
her
right.
closet
Yeah, I
and
do
things
remember
like
that.
So I think that's really funny. Do you prefer fashion victim or ensemble challenged? Love it. Okay, next one. You're just a virgin who can't drive.
Oh my gosh, that was Ty. I actually wrote that down in my notes. So I was like, that's a good one.
Yeah, so she literally looks at her and says, "You are a virgin who can't drive." Amazing.
It's a mic drop moment. No.
Yes, 100%. And Cher's response is also really famous. That was way harsh, Ty. Because it was way harsh, And Brittany Murphy actually talked about how she loved performing that scene because she, in fact, was, at the time, a virgin who couldn't drive. So she's sitting there making fun of Alicia Silverstone's character Cher when she, in fact, is also a virgin who can't drive. So, all right. Very popular line that's said throughout the film by multiple people is, "Oh my God, I'm totally bugging." They refer to attractive men as Baldwins, referring to the Baldwin brothers. So if they say, "Oh, he's such a Baldwin," they're saying that he's very attractive. One of my favorite quotes is, "No, she's a full-on Monet. It's like a painting, see? From far away, it's okay, but up close, it's a big old mess." Love it. That's so creative. To say that someone's a Monet, like, brilliant writing. Also, another thing that I think is really funny when they're talking about the tardiness in class, in Mr. Hall's class, and he's naming all the times that people have been late. Cher goes, "I'm sorry, can we be told like when these tardies actually happen?" He's like, "Well, one was last week." And she was like, "Mr. Hall, I was riding the Crimson Wave. I had to haul ass to the ladies. I was surfing the Crimson Wave. I was surfing the Crimson Wave." No. Yeah, like, oh,
It's like,
yeah.
I assume that's a woman's thing or something.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I don't know if Amy Heckerling came up with Crimson Wave, but to say I was surfing the Crimson Wave and I had to haul ass to the ladies, so funny, so brilliant, so great. We also have the iconic "whatever" from Amber, which we all know is used. I don't know if Clueless invented the "whatever" with the the two fingers making the W, but it works and people remember it for that reason. And then, of course, we have as if. Obviously, as if is used all the time, especially when promoting this film. Everyone knows that comes from Clueless, and they all love it. So, are you gonna use these things in your daily conversations, Jason? Like when you're on calls at work, are you gonna be like, as if?
I don't know. It depends upon the audience. No. It's funny. I also liked one of the other quotes that I liked is the "I don't rely on mirrors, I use Polaroids" when she's getting ready for her big date.
Honestly, that's funny though, because like if you really think about it, like seeing how you like look in pictures, especially when you're gonna hang out with people, your pictures would be being taken to see how you're gonna look in that picture. Kind of genius, to be honest.
It's smart. That's probably expensive with Polaroids, but that's part of the movie. That's why everybody had cell phones there.
When they are outside on the tennis court, Miss Stoger tells Amber that she's up next. Amber says, "Miss Stoger, my plastic surgeon doesn't want me doing any activity where balls fly at my nose." And then Dion goes, "Well, there goes your social life." Elisa Donovan, who plays Amber, mentioned at the time when she said that line, she didn't know what it meant and or why it was funny. She didn't understand it at the time, and then when she realized, she was like, "Oh." And
Bless
she
her
got it and
heart.
thought
No.
thought it was genius, right? Also, there was another scene when they're at the Valley party. Ty ends up getting knocked in the head with a shoe that goes flying, and they're afraid that she might have a concussion. They lay her down on the table. I actually say this all the time too, and I'll tell you guys why. Cher goes, "If it's a concussion, you have to keep her conscious, okay? Ask her questions." And Elton goes, "What's 7 times 7?" And Cher goes, "Stuff she knows." So every once in a while, like Zach and I will be out and about, we'll have a couple of drinks or something, and Zach will be like, "Ask me a question." And I always say, "What's 7 times 7?" And I feel like the first time I ever did that with him, he was like, "What are you talking about?" So I always say that. Anytime someone says, "Ask me a question," I always say, "What's 7 times 7?" And I never forget. I'm really horrible at math, but I'll never forget that 7 times 7 is 49 because of this movie. I think at the time I watched it, I was like, "What is 7 times 7?" And I never forgot it. So thanks, Clueless, for letting me know my multiplication tables. Anyway.
Brings back those good times back in school when you had to memorize all that.
For real, though. So Clueless definitely helped me out there. Any other big quotes that you remember that you really liked, or moments that the quotes happened in?
No, I mean obviously the whole thing when Murray talks about um Christian being a cake boy, like that whole like thing. I thought that was funny whenever he said
Mm-hmm.
that in the car.
Yep, I love it. I love when Christian goes to pick up Cher at the house, and they go to leave to go out for the night, and they're getting into the car, and Christian says, "Do you like Billie Holiday?" And Cher says, "I love him." Obviously, Billie Holiday is a girl. She was clueless about that moment in time.
That's right. The how many times do they even say clueless in the movie? Because it's mentioned quite a few, from what I
It is
recall.
mentioned a few times. Yeah, they
Yeah.
refer to Ty as clueless. Cher refers to herself as clueless.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely mentioned a few times. That's a good question. I don't know the exact number of how many times it actually is said, but it is said. You are correct. One other thing I really love too is Murray and Dion's relationship and their banter. Sometimes there's a scene when Murray says "woman," which he calls her woman quite a bit. He says, "Woman, lend me $5." And Dion says, "Murray, I've asked you repeatedly not to call me woman." And he goes, "Well, excuse me, Miss Dion." And she says, "Thank you." And then he says, "Okay, but street slang is an increasingly valid form of expression. Most of the feminine pronouns do have mocking, but not necessarily in a misogynistic undertone." Like, what? Like, whoever, like, the fact that Amy Heckerling thought of that and wrote that out, and it's said in the film, is just, it's genius too. And I also like when Cher gives her big speech again back to the tennis court, when Cher goes, "Miss Stoger, I would just like to say that the physical education in this school is a disgrace. I mean, standing in line for 40 minutes is hardly aerobically effective. I doubt I've worked off the calories on a care of stick-free gum." So good. I mean, again, I could go on and on. Cher teaching Ty to use big words makes people think you're smart. So you say the word sporadically and use it in a sentence at one point in time. And Josh says, "Be seeing ya." And she goes, "Hopefully not sporadically." Again, so many things, so many iconic quotes. There's probably a million that I'm missing that people are going to be like, I can't believe you didn't say this. Can't believe you didn't say that. But again, it's filled to the brim, page after page, scene after scene, quotes on quotes, and it is so well done. I mean, wrapping this up, Jason, is there anything else you want to talk about with Clueless?
Um, no, I mean I also enjoyed the Pismo Beach fundraiser scene where Cher is just like separating, well, she was like separating the food items into like the pantry and like entree or no, appetizers and entrees or something, and I'm just like, this is just so privileged and over the top.
Yep, I love how Miss Geist is like, okay, cool.
I know, she's just like, all right, like that's not what we're here for, but okay.
And then when Travis brings his bong in a box, and
Yes.
Cher's like, I guess we'll put this in kitchenware.
Kitchenware.
He says, that's where I kept it. So funny. One of the other things that's said a lot in the movie, and by a lot I mean I think maybe twice, is outie, meaning that someone's leaving a setting or a location. One of the most notable moments when it's being said is after Ty says that Cher's a virgin who can't drive. She gets all serious, like she's actually like really angry, and Ty like grabs the box that she has and she turns around and she says, I'm outie. And it's written as AUDI, like the car, because you're going to be leaving something really fast. So you're outie, like out, I'm out of here, outie, but it's written like AUDI. Creative as fuck.
Nice.
Love it. Love it. That's pretty much all I got for this movie that I want to talk about now. Again, I could stretch this out a whole another hour and keep talking about all the great things that happened, but it's been announced that Clueless is getting a continuation TV show, a spin-off directly from the movie. Alicia Silverstone is reprising her role as Cher. I'm assuming she's not going to be the main focus. We're probably going to go back to high school, whether it would be with her kids or other kids. Maybe she'll be a teacher, or I don't know how this is going to play out. But Peacock greenlit it, and Alicia Silverstone was super excited to announce that she was going to be a part of it. So I'm really excited to see where that goes. It just, after 30 years, it just keeps going, and people really love this movie, and I'm glad that you got to watch it for the very first time. With that being said, you know, you gave it a 7.5, right? That was your rating?
Yeah.
Are you sticking with 7.5? Did any of this stuff maybe make you feel like you could bump it up a little bit, or maybe knock it down? Think about
Wouldn't
the same.
say knock it down. Probably about the same, or maybe an 8.
Okay.
Just because there's some good extra background to it that I didn't know going into it. So thanks for that.
Hell yeah. And honestly, there's so much. I mean, I think we mentioned either on or off the microphone that we have pages and pages and pages of things we have written down. I have so many facts and behind the scenes trivia. Again, I can't get into it all because this episode's going to be 3 hours longer if I did, but that's just how much this movie means to me and so many other people. And I'm glad that you finally got to be a part of it, Jason.
I like it. Thank you for having me. This is fun.
This is Jason, his first time on my podcast. He's a really good friend of mine, and he's a perfect candidate for this podcast platform since there are a lot of movies he hasn't seen. I remember these things, Jason. With that being said, seriously, thank you so much for being on my podcast. Thank you for watching Clueless and taking the time out of your day to talk to me about it. Everyone listening, watching, whatever it might be, thank you so much for following alongside and checking in on my Clueless 30-year anniversary episode. I'm totally bugging about that, for sure. I hope you enjoy the rest of your nights, and I hope the rest of you do as well. Thanks so much for being here. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Dave.
Bye.
But wait, there's more. That's right. I know so many people who absolutely adore Clueless, and a few that wanted to leave a little message about what they love about it and why it's so iconic to them. I have a few people here that have some things to say. Go ahead, guys. Tell them why you love Clueless.
A happy 30th birthday, Clueless. I'm so excited to talk about this iconic film because it's been ingrained in my soul for my whole life since I've seen it. Which, honestly, I can't really pinpoint when I actually watched the first time I ever watched Clueless, because it came out whenever I was 7. I couldn't imagine myself watching it at 7, but considering whenever I was growing up, my mom in particular, she did not want my brother and I to watch MTV, but whenever my cousin would watch us they would be watching MTV. So I would just sit there and watch it with them, obviously. Like, it's already on, so I might as well. So that's why I think I might have figured out, like, Clueless itself, I guess. Okay, so I just looked it up. Not the movie, but why I possibly could have saw Alicia Silverstone and thought, oh, what is this? And then stumbled upon Clueless because MTV music videos, Aerosmith. She was in 3 Aerosmith music videos. So that's definitely how I got into Clueless. Other than that, truly do not remember. But it's been a staple in my life. I am currently dressed. If I ever want to dress 90s, Dion is forever my inspiration. I bought this outfit. It's just a little dress with a black top. I bought this outfit, I think it was for like a 90s party. Like, Clueless is the definition in my eyes as 90s because that's what I grew up in. I was in, like I said, whenever it came out, 7. And like, the fashion was beyond amazing, period. And I think that's honestly as what stood out to me the most, on top of the witty humor and the banter and just the chemistry of the whole cast. Absolutely love it. But the fashion.
My name is Travis, and I use they, them pronouns. Why do I love Clueless? The quotes, the cast, the fashion, the nostalgia. It's timeless, fun, and always funny. But most of all, I love it because it's a great feel-good movie. It always brings me joy, whether I watch it alone or with friends. I think it's awesome, and I love reciting the film back to itself. I have my bonus mom, Janet, to thank for the first time I watched Clueless. Hi, Janet. I was 10 or 11 at the time. Clueless was on HBO, but I remember my bonus mom suggesting it on a Friday or Saturday night as a movie we could watch as a family, so me, her, and my dad. She said it was a teen comedy, and I was hooked instantly. I didn't get all the references and jokes at the time, but I really found the film to be a lot of fun, and remember feeling really good after watching it, and I wanted to immediately watch it again on repeat. And I have, for many years. As we all know, the movie is stacked with great quotes and moments. One of my favorite collection of quotes comes from a moment involving Murray, Dion, and Cher when they're all in the car the day after Cher's date with Christian. Murray says, "Your man Christian is a cake boy." Cher and Dion simultaneously reply with, "A what?" To which Murray declares, "He's a disco dancing, Oscar Wilde reading, Streisand ticket holding friend of Dorothy." Cher reacts with a, no way, not even. Then Murray concludes with, "Yes, even, he's gay." The banter between the characters is casual and eye-opening for the ladies. Of course, it leads to Dion getting on the freeway and one of the best highway scenes in all of cinema. I'm not taking any questions on that comment. But I love this scene because Christian's sexuality is not a big deal. None of the characters dislike Christian or have issues with him being gay. He simply exists. I remember this being really powerful as a kid because in real life, at the time, gay was slung at me like verbal rocks. But sure, Cher is bummed that she didn't realize this detail about Christian, but he still becomes one of her favorite shopping partners. One other favorite quote of mine would be, "I'm outie," because I love using it in real life. It's a great way to say goodbye. I would rate Clueless 10 out of 10 pink fuzzy pom-pom pens, but since I don't have any of those around me, I'm also going to give it 2 enthusiastic thumbs up. Happy birthday, Clueless. Cheers. I'm outie.
I love Clueless because it immediately invokes feelings of nostalgia. The first time that I saw it, I was probably 7 years old, between the ages of 7 and 9, so I was young, It came out in 95, which would have made me 7. And I was always hanging out with the 2 neighbor girls that lived in the 2 neighbor houses next to me, but they were 2 years older than me. And so I was always trying to be super cool and know what the cool thing was to do to fit in with them, so I could keep playing with them and hanging out with them, and they would think I was cool. So Clueless was such a coming of age movie to try to learn those things. And of course I watched it with them, and seeing Cher and Dion take Ty under their wings and give her this makeover to help her fit into this new school, it's almost looking back now as if, you know, I was trying so hard at that age, at such a young age, at 7 to 9, and I guess really that's probably when you do start to try to fit in and be cool and learn those social norms. And it was also kind of the first depiction of like class and wealth, and seeing Cher's house, and of course this takes place in Beverly Hills, but like seeing that mansion and you know, one of my favorite moments that sticks out to me is the closet scene and her rotating closet with all the clothes, and you just like are watching this and you're like, oh my gosh, like those girls are so rich, they have everything, they have all this money, like how cool would it be to have all those things. And some of my other favorite moments were definitely the freeway scene where Cher and Dion and Murray are driving, and Murray is cracking up at the realization that Cher and Dion are having that Christian's gay, and then they accidentally get onto the freeway. That's definitely one of my favorite moments. It's just so intense and funny and just so well done. And I also love the scene where he shaves his head and Dion starts freaking out. And my 1 to 10 rating, I don't know, it would probably be an 8. It's such a great movie. It's such a classic. I can't wait to rewatch it whenever my daughter comes of age to watch these things. And, you know, she's not going to get it, but like I'll explain it to her the best I can. And I feel like it'll be just one of those cool bonding experiences of me showing her a piece of my childhood.
As we wrap up this episode, let's toast to Amy Heckerling, who brilliantly morphed drama into Beverly Hills charm and turned teenage angst into timeless hilarity. As the credits fade on this episode, and on 3 decades of iconic fashion choices, impulsive matchmaking, and endlessly quotable one-liners, please remember this. Clueless was never just about being utterly confused. It was about discovering who you are through all the fabulous chaos. Are you still second-guessing your life choices? Please,